Na watu waende base, mjipange vizuri. Mimi sitaki kusikia watu wa Uganda ambao mnakuja kuchukua vitambulisho hapa. Pata hiyo tahadhari. Na wengine wameletwa hapa kuja kusumbua mimi nikipeana mbegu. Mtu akileta hiyo ujinga hapa, my friend, mimi niko tofauti kidogo.
Tanzania Governor George Natembeya has issued a firm and direct warning to Ugandan nationals who may be planning to obtain Kenyan identification documents with the intention of participating in the 2027 general election. Speaking at a public gathering in Endebess on Monday, March 16, 2026, the governor made clear that such attempt would not be tolerated under his watch, and he would personally ensure no foreign national stepped into a polling station in his county during the next election cycle.
Mambo ya watu wa Uganda kuja kuchukua IDs Kenya, they must stop. Maana hata mkichukua siku ya kura, haki ya Mungu hamtakanyaga hapa kuja kupiga kura. Hamwezi kuwa mnakaa Uganda, mnatuchagulia viongozi ambao ni wapumbavu, ni washezi, ni wakabila, alafu narudi Uganda. Hapana, ili mchague viongozi Uganda, mwaje sichague viongozi.
His remarks were pointed, forceful, and delivered with the weight of someone who has spent years in security and administration before entering electoral politics. Natembeya acknowledged that Ugandan nationals are familiar presence in Trans-Nzoia County, particularly in agricultural areas close to the border. He said their presence for purposes of farming and trade is acceptable and posed no concerns. However, he drew a hard red line at the acquisition of a national identification cards, warning that those found obtaining such documents for electoral purposes would face serious consequences. He made it clear that having a Kenyan ID would not automatically guarantee access to a polling station, and that he intended to personally monitor the compliance within the law on election day. The governor directed his remarks squarely at residents of Entebbe, urging them to stay vigilant and organize as the 2027 election season draws closer. He called on communities to take ownership of the integrity of the electoral process and to be alert to any suspicious activity involving the registration of non-citizens. His message carried the tone of someone addressing a security threat rather than making a general political statement, reflecting his background as former Rift Valley Regional Commissioner, a role that sharpened his instincts on border community and population movements. Natembeya went further to address the broader question of electoral sovereignty. He stated that Ugandans should concern themselves with selecting leaders in their own country and leave Kenyans to decide who governs them. He expressed frustration at the idea that foreign nationals could influence the outcome of an election, chose leaders who would govern Kenya, then return across the border without accountability. He framed the issue as a matter of national dignity, warning that those behind such scheme would regret their effort. The warning comes at a time when Natembeya has established himself as one of the most assertive voices in Kenya's opposition politics. He remained a central figure in the United Opposition Coalition, which is actively positioning itself for the 2027 presidential contest. His political status has grown considerably since he took office as Trans-Nzoia governor in 2022, having successfully entered elective politics after a career in the provisional administration. In January 2026, a survey by research firm Infotrack ranked him as the most influential leader in the Abaluya community, with half of respondents identifying him as the dominant political voice in the region. His influence was particularly strong in his home county, where 7 in 10 respondents said he held the greatest sway. The same Infotrack poll released on January 8, 2026 placed Natembeya third overall in voter preference in Western Kenya for the 2027 presidential race behind President William Ruto and former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i. Despite his relative ranking in voter preference numbers, 36% of respondents in the same survey named him as the leader who's best champion for the interest of Western Kenya, a figure that places him well ahead of other regional politicians. A political analyst noted that the gap between him and his influence rating and his raw voter preference figures pointed to a high competitive and evolving landscape in the Mulembe nation. The Natembeya's political trajectory in the months leading up to his Entebbe remarks has been marked by sharp opposition activities. In February 2026, at a public event in Kiembu, he predicted that President William Ruto would become the first sitting president to be voted out a single term. Shortly before that, he had dropped earlier ambitions for the national presidential ticket, choosing instead to focus on securing re-election as Trans Nzoia governor. He stated his readiness to defend his seat against any challenger, citing broader support across Western Kenya. In December 2025, Natembeya met with Jubilee Deputy Party leader Fred Matiang'i in a session that also drew senior United Opposition figures, including former Trade Cabinet Secretary Mutisa Kitunyi. The governors reaffirmed their working relationship with the opposition, with Matiang'i indicating that the discussion had focused on governance accountability and the political challenges facing the Kenya Kwanza administration. The meeting underscored the continued cohesion between the two leaders as key pillars of the united opposition Western and Nyanza region strategic heading into 2027. Earlier in December 2025, a senior UD official had publicly called on Natembeya to abandon the Democratic Action Party of Kenya, the APK, and join a ruling party, saying the government was willing to receive him. Natembeya dismissed any such prospect. He had previously stated in September 2025 that any area that he has crossed to government side should have him committed a mental illness or should be taken to a mental health institution. His opposition to President William Ruto remained firm and had become a divine feature in his political identity. In December and on Entebbe on March 16, 2026, Natembeya closed his remarks on voter integrity an issue by reminding the crowd that Ugandans are welcome to trade and farm in Kenya.